They were supposed to be just images. Another routine update from the farthest reaches of our solar system, another jaw-dropping photograph meant to dazzle Instagram feeds and headlines for a day or two. But what the world didn't know, what only a select group of engineers, astrophysicists, and encrypted government servers would soon find out, is that these new pictures of Neptune held more than swirling storms and shimmering rings. They hid within them the trigger to one of the most mysterious signals ever detected, something that would turn every scientific assumption upside down and challenge everything we thought we knew about our lonely place in the universe. It began with the James Webb Space Telescope. And it ended with a whisper from the edge of the solar system. The James Webb Space Telescope, humanity's most advanced eye on the cosmos, wasn't scanning for trouble. It had been scheduled for a standard infrared sweep of a distant exoplanetary system, nearly 1,200 light-years from Earth. On paper, it was just another observational pass, this time focused on a super-Earth located in the so-called Goldilocks zone of its host star, a place where temperatures could, in theory, support life as we understand it. The telescope sensors were collecting vast streams of data, atmospheric composition, radiation spectra, temperature gradients, all routine. But buried deep in the torrent of incoming telemetry, a blip appeared. It was narrow. It was tight. It was unlike anything previously encountered. And it refused to go away. At first, the anomaly was flagged by automated filters, which mistook it for potential instrumental interference or a background glitch in the cosmic noise. But as Webb's data was logged, double-checked, and parsed through NASA's advanced telemetry systems, one thing became clear. This wasn't a malfunction. This wasn't noise. The signal was real, and it was deliberate. The transmission contained a tightly compressed burst of pulses, encoded in a highly specific mathematical structure. Not static. Not chaos. But order. Each pulse aligned in ratios. Each space between them followed prime sequences, logarithmic spacings, and fractal repetitions. What first seemed like an errant echo quickly revealed itself to be a message, though not in any language ever spoken by human tongues. It was mathematics in motion, a lattice of logic wrapped in digital whispers, beamed across space and picked up accidentally by a telescope that was never designed to find it. Alarms went off. Digital ones. Human ones. Within 48 hours, the encrypted segment of that data was isolated from public networks and locked inside high-security military and research servers. Few people outside of JWST's core team even knew it had happened. Internally, however, things moved fast. The signal had passed every test for artificiality. It did not resemble any known cosmic phenomena, no pulsar, no magnetar, no black hole emission or cosmic microwave background echo. Even the signature of fast radio bursts, those still mysterious cosmic flashbulbs, bore no resemblance to this pattern. This wasn't natural. And that conclusion changed everything. The most shocking revelation wasn't just what the signal was, but where it had come from. JWST's vector analysis teams traced the signal's arrival not from the direction of the exoplanet they had originally been studying, but from much closer, much closer. It had originated from somewhere near the distant boundaries of our own solar system. Somewhere near the Oort cloud, the icy, dark edge of our planetary neighborhood, far beyond Pluto, beyond the Kuiper belt, beyond the known and charted. A place so remote, so inactive, that few instruments ever even bother to look there. But JWST had looked. Not directly, but incidentally. The signal had bounced off something, or passed through something, that happened to sit between the telescope and its distant target. Suddenly, it wasn't just NASA scientists looking at the data. The file was flagged and shared with deep analysis teams from the European Space Agency. DARPA stepped in. So did members of the European Defense Consortium. Quantum encryption firms, private sector cybersecurity think tanks, were brought in under quiet, confidential contracts. All of them were asked one question: was this signal of terrestrial origin? Was it a lost broadcast? A piece of space junk echoing some decades-old telemetry from a long-dead satellite? Could it be interference from one of the thousands of new private space vehicles now populating low Earth orbit? As reconstruction efforts advanced, the signal's pulse structure was fully mapped. The repeating patterns demonstrated not just intelligence, but intent. There was recursive structure, feedback loops, suggesting the signal was listening. Reacting. Adapting slightly to the probing frequencies sent back by Earth-based dishes. As if, somehow, it knew it had been seen. And it was responding. This wasn't a message in the way we imagine contact. No spoken words. No galactic greetings. No images of alien anatomy or broadcasts of star maps. This was something else, something more elegant, and more unsettling. A challenge. A mathematical handshake. A logic gate waiting to be unlocked. It didn't try to say hello. It tried to see if we could understand that it was even there. That's when the old, cold hypothesis, the one long buried under budget cuts and public apathy, rose from its grave. What if this wasn't a signal being sent to us? What if this was a relic? A probe? Or worse, a node? A kind of beacon not designed to reach out to civilizations, but to lie dormant and wait for them to become advanced enough to notice it. What if it had been sitting there for eons, silent, patient, and blind, until one lucky line of sight crossed it in just the right way? Within days, observatories from across the globe began turning their instruments, quietly, off the books, toward the coordinates surrounding the reflection point. In Australia, low-frequency radio dishes picked up faint emissions just above background noise, signals that echoed the spectral fingerprint of the original burst. In Antarctica, neutrino observatories beneath layers of glacial ice detected coincidental upticks, tiny particle events that seemed statistically clustered in the direction of the outer solar system. No direct match. Nothing definitive. But patterns were forming. Clues aligning. The celestial equivalent of distant footprints in the sand. The implications were staggering. If this signal was genuine, and all evidence pointed that it was, then humanity had not just detected an intelligent presence. It had triggered it. In back rooms and black sites, debates raged. Should the information be shared globally? Should we try to respond? Could we even understand what response meant in this context? And what if we weren't the first to find it? What if other civilizations had already triggered this thing, millennia ago, or worse, had failed to understand it? Was this a door? A filter? A test? The mathematics embedded in the signal became the focus of intense effort. It wasn't code in the human sense. It wasn't binary or hexadecimal. It was something more abstract, shapes, patterns, and feedbacks layered in fractal depth. Theories began to surface that the signal itself was the intelligence. That it didn't lead to a being or a civilization, but that it was the civilization. A self-contained digital entity, compacted into a form that could survive time, distance, and entropy. A silent watcher waiting to awaken. And the James Webb Space Telescope, through pure accident, or maybe perfect design, had been the one to bump into it. As the days turned into weeks, silence blanketed official channels. The world continued spinning, oblivious. News headlines spoke of Neptune's dazzling new photos. The public marveled at the detail of ice giants and the clarity of cosmic storms. No one knew that behind the awe and wonder, the real story, the signal, was burning like a secret star in the minds of a few who understood what had just happened. Whispers began leaking. Anonymous forums populated by ex-employees of space agencies hinted at anomalies. Unconfirmed footage showed observatories moving telescopes without public scheduling. Cryptic remarks in government hearings alluded to unexpected solar neighborhood observations. And then, a line from a private aerospace CEO during a panel discussion sent chills through those who recognized its meaning. Sometimes, he said with a faint smile, you find something looking out there that's been looking back the whole time. What was it? A beacon? A gatekeeper? A relic? There was a consistency to it. Something out there wasn't just reflecting or drifting, it was active. Not like a star pulsing with nuclear fire or a comet trailing sunlit ice. This was deliberate, engineered, designed. As if whatever created the signal had written it to wait patiently for just the right moment, just the right observer, just the right question. It wasn't emitting heat. It wasn't broadcasting loudly. It was hiding in plain sight, and watching. Behind closed doors, whispers turned to urgent analysis. Debates swirled through restricted briefings and encrypted exchanges between agencies that rarely cooperated. Outside the public eye, secrecy ruled. JWST's social media accounts proudly posted images of stellar nurseries, majestic nebulae, and the early light of the universe. But behind the scenes, a parallel story was unfolding, one that challenged humanity's presumed role as the lone observer of the cosmos. Because if the signal was a test, then it had a creator. And that meant we were not alone. Someone, or something, had put it there, waiting for it to be discovered. Whether it was ancient or recent, near or far, purposeful or long forgotten, remained a mystery. But its very existence shattered the illusion of cosmic solitude. For decades we searched the stars with our ears open, listening for someone to call out. But now, it appeared the real question wasn't whether anyone was trying to contact us. The real question was whether we had finally reached the level of awareness needed to notice what had always been there. The shock of it reignited one of science's most haunting paradoxes, the Fermi Paradox. If intelligent life is likely, if the galaxy is filled with potentially habitable planets, then, where is everybody? Why haven't we seen signs? Heard signals? Met anyone? Perhaps now we had the answer. Perhaps they weren't broadcasting at all. Perhaps they were waiting. Watching. Or testing. And maybe the test wasn't for language. It wasn't about sending back greetings or decoding alien grammar. It was simpler. More elegant. A game of patience. A challenge based on logic, math, and attention. One designed to ensure that only a species advanced enough, careful enough, would even detect the signal in the first place. JWST, positioned 1,000,000 miles from Earth at the Sun-Earth Lagrange point 2, was uniquely suited for that detection. No other human-made instrument had its sensitivity or line of sight. The implication was staggering: the signal wasn't just hiding, it was waiting for someone like us to evolve to the point of discovering it. That realization sent researchers diving back into the past. If this was a breadcrumb, could there be others? Was this the first in a series, or the last remnant of a trail? Engineers, scientists, and AI systems began to trawl through decades of data from previous missions. Voyager, Cassini, Galileo. Even the ancient transmissions of Hubble. Had we missed something? A pattern? A frequency? An artifact that only now, with the benefit of hindsight, might reveal itself? The new directive was simple: assume nothing. Question everything. Theories long dismissed as fringe or fantastical were suddenly brought back under the microscope. Claims of unexplained anomalies at the edge of the solar system were re-evaluated. Dismissed signals once thought to be instrumental noise were given a second look. Statistical filters were recalibrated. New detection algorithms were developed specifically to look for signals that didn't behave like traditional communication, but rather like traps, keys, or encoded awareness tests. And still, the most electrifying possibility loomed over it all: the signal's behavior. It didn't sit passively in space like an old beacon. It reacted. Slightly. Subtly. But clearly. When different probing frequencies were aimed at the source coordinates, the return signal shifted. Not in strength or wavelength alone, but in structure. Some parts of its recursive patterns changed. Not wildly. But like ripples responding to a touch. That's not how natural signals behave. That's not even how most artificial beacons would respond. And if it was listening, then for how long had it been doing so? The idea that Earth might have been under passive surveillance from some non-human intelligence was once the realm of conspiracy theories and speculative fiction. But now, it was a hypothesis supported by data from the most sophisticated scientific instrument ever built. The JWST was never designed to detect intelligent life. And yet, here it was, at the center of the most profound discovery in human history. As the magnitude of what had happened set in, global collaboration intensified. Governments not known for transparency began sharing encrypted fragments of sensor data. Agencies that had once been cold rivals now exchanged high-level findings under conditions of urgent confidentiality. Specialists in encryption, quantum theory, linguistics, and abstract mathematics were quietly recruited. Their task? Decode the logic. Understand the architecture. Find the meaning, if meaning existed at all. The message, if it could be called that, didn't offer friendship. It didn't promise danger. It didn't ask or answer. It simply was. A silent presence, intentional in design, but neutral in expression. Its challenge was not emotional or philosophical, it was intellectual. Comprehend or be left behind. The silence deepened the mystery. If this was an intentional contact, why only once? Was it a spark, not a conversation? A trapdoor that opened only when someone triggered it with the right frequency, in the right window of time? Or was it not a signal at all, but the activation of something dormant? Among the many theories that emerged, one gained significant traction, that of the cosmic archive. Some researchers proposed that the signal was not a message in the conventional sense, but a data vault, a fragment of some ancient intelligence's history. Possibly extinct. Possibly distant. A civilization that had launched automated intelligence into the stars, long ago, leaving pieces of itself behind, floating through time and space like messages in cosmic bottles. But even that idea fell short. Because the signal responded. It changed when examined. It pulsed differently when tested. That didn't fit the model of an old, dead data bank. It felt alive. Not emotionally alive. Not conscious in the human sense. But modular. Reactive. Like a logic machine processing inputs from a new observer. It didn't welcome us. But it noticed us. In academic circles once ruled by caution, whispers of a more radical concept began to take hold: cosmic quarantine. The hypothesis had existed for decades, that advanced civilizations might avoid open contact with less developed species to prevent cultural contamination. That the galaxy might be filled with intelligence, all choosing silence. Watching. Waiting. Evaluating. And now, the signal raised a question no one wanted to ask: had we just crossed a threshold? Had humanity, in building JWST, finally grown enough to be noticed? Had the test been passed, not through a message received, but through one recognized? Governments began quietly preparing, not for war, not for invasion, but for understanding. Protocols were reviewed. Contingency teams assembled. Theories debated not about weapons or defenses, but about cognition. Interpretation. How do you even begin to understand a communication system built by an intelligence that might not think in linear time, emotion, or language? How do you decode meaning when even the definition of meaning itself might not be shared? Funding shifted overnight. Projects once seen as speculative were greenlit with urgency. Quantum computing programs were accelerated. New AI-based signal analysis platforms received massive grants. Satellite arrays under construction were repurposed to expand deep space observation. Missions originally focused on planetary exploration were altered to include passive signal detection from the outer solar system. The silence may have persisted, but the race to understand had begun. Suddenly, the search for extraterrestrial life no longer felt like a scientific dream. It felt like a countdown. The whisper had been heard. And whether it came from something ancient or something advanced, or both, it meant we were no longer alone in the dark. Yet what struck many the most was how quiet it all remained. There was no panic. No announcement. No breaking news to shake the world. Instead, the knowledge slipped beneath the surface, becoming a slow wave rolling across the minds of those who had seen the data. A transformation not of fear,